For 20 years, I couldn't grow an onion to save my soul. I could never get an onion, just something that looked like a giant leek. If you've struggled to grow proper onions, then what I'm about to share might be just the answer you've been looking for. I tried everything. Then one day I was out in the garden and I phoned the extension service at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And that's where I knew they had an onion expert on staff. "Kevin," I said, now right now I can't remember if that's his real name, "why do some of my onions form bulbs, but most of them don't? It seems so random. What am I doing wrong?" Here's the essence of what Kevin shared with me that day. And ever since, I've grown onions like this. Now, the development of the bulb of an onion plant is a delicate process, a process that can be influenced by a variety of factors, including how the onion seedling or set is transplanted. You see, if an onion seedling is transplanted too deeply, it might not form a proper bulb. Here's why. Onion plants are unique in that the part we typically eat, the bulb, forms above the ground. The bulb of an onion is actually a modified stem, and it needs to be at or near the surface where it can get adequate sunlight and air. Now, when onion seedlings are planted too deeply, the plant will direct its energy in trying to push the shoot up towards the sunlight instead of focusing on the bulb formation. The end result is a weak plant with a small or non-existent bulb, and you end up with something that resembles a leek, right? It's totally edible, but you won't be able to store it. Now, before I share how deep to plant an onion seedling, I want to share with you my 4 best tips that I've adopted over 35 years of growing onions. Onions that form honest-to-goodness bulbs. The first 3, form the foundation. And then the last one is the final step. That's putting the seedling in the ground. Number 1, choose the right onion variety. Now, day length or photoperiod plays a big role in determining the kind of onion you should choose to grow. This is because onions are photoperiodic plants, which means their growth and development are affected by the length of the day or the amount of light they receive. So let me explain. Onions are typically categorized into 3 types based on their responses to daylight. You have short day onions, long day onions, and day neutral onions. Short day onions require fewer hours of daylight to trigger the bulb formation, typically around 10 to 12 hours. In a moment, I'll share with you a really nifty online chart where you can find the day length in your area for any given month. Short day onions are best suited for southern regions where the days are shorter. Long day onions, these onions require more daylight hours to begin bulb formation, typically around 14 to 16 hours of daylight. They're suited for northern regions where summer days are longer. I'll be using long day onions in my example since I live and garden in Kodiak, Alaska. Then you have day neutral onions. These onions form bulbs regardless of the amount of sunlight they get, and can be grown in almost any region. So when buying onion seeds or sets, it's really important to be familiar with what kind of onion would work best for your location. And as always, I tell gardeners, if you're not sure, be a citizen scientist and try a few. Okay. In a northern climate where the length of the summer daylight is long, you would want to plant long day onions, right? These varieties will use the extended daylight hours to produce foliage or leaves. Now, when the days start to get shorter, this signals the plant to begin bulb formation. Now, listen to this. The larger the top growth at this point, the larger the bulb will be, as it uses the energy stored in the foliage to form the bulb. I'll say that again. The larger the top growth, the larger the bulb will be, as it uses the energy stored in the foliage, the leaves, to form the bulb. So by matching your onion type to your region's day length, you'll ensure that your onions will receive the proper amount of sunlight they need. Long day onions are tailored to thrive in regions with long day lengths, which means latitudes of 37 degrees north and above. A few popular options include Walla Walla, Ailsa Craig, I hope I pronounced that right, and Sweet Spanish. These varieties can withstand the cool growing conditions and produce large, flavorful bulbs. Number 2, preparing your soil. Onions prefer well-draining soil. Heavy soils like our butter clay should be amended with organic matter such as compost to improve drainage, or tilth as it's called, like soil structure. Also important is the pH. The ideal pH for onions is between 6 and 7. If you don't know what your soil pH is, I highly recommend getting your soil tested to determine whether you need to adjust your soil's pH. Now, many gardeners don't realize that onions are heavy feeders, meaning they require a lot of nutrients. Remember, they are a stem crop, not a root crop like potatoes and carrots, that do not require a lot of nitrogen and other nutrients. So for onions, incorporate organic compost or well-rotted manure into your soil before planting. On to number 3, watering your onions. While onions need regular watering, they don't like to be waterlogged. They don't like wet feet. Like I said, adding organic matter helps with drainage, but I've been known to cover my onions with mini hoops should the heavens open up for too long. For more information about mini hoops and raised beds, check out this video. Try to maintain even moisture, especially during bulb development, which begins when day length reaches 14 to 16 hours in my case. Here's the online chart I told you about. It's on the U.S. Navy's amazing webpage called Duration of Daylight Darkness Table for 1 year. You can look up the amount of day length for your location. I'll post the link in the description below. It's pretty easy to use, and I'll be creating a separate video with tips on how fellow gardeners can get the most out of it. For our latitude on Kodiak Island of 58 degrees north, we crossed the 14-hour mark on April 11th. Now for tip number 4, planting onion seedlings. I used to buy onion sets, but I have found over the years that starting onions from seed gives me a better success rate. It's a lot less expensive and troublesome than purchasing sets. I know of a commercial greenhouse operator that stopped buying onion sets because they often harbored aphids. When seedlings are 6 to 8 weeks old and the soil is workable, it's time to transplant. Here's a simple step-by-step process to planting your onion seedlings so you end up with a bountiful harvest of bulb onions. Number 1, dig a trench about 2 to 3 inches deep. Number 2, place the seedlings in the trench, keeping them about 6 to 8 inches apart. Number 3, backfill the trench until the bulb tops are slightly visible and the roots barely covered. This ensures that the onions receive enough sunlight and air for the bulb to form properly, while also providing enough soil coverage to protect the bulb and roots from harsh weather and pests. So speaking of weather and pests, be sure to check the seedlings, during your rounds to make sure the roots are not exposed. Curious birds, heavy rain, or strong wind can topple tender seedling. So looking back over the past 35 years of growing onions, I learned a valuable spiritual lesson. I had tried all kinds of measures, changed out the soil, added more compost, held back on the compost, stirred in sand, hoping the texture would help. But when Kevin, the onion guy at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks, shared what seemed at first to be like a tiny adjustment, to my surprise and delight, it brought about huge results, and I've been growing onions successfully ever since. My onion story holds a precious spiritual lesson. Often in life, we consider grand sweeping changes when we face challenges, right? We forget the power of small adjustments, a kind word instead of a harsh one, a moment of quiet prayer in a busy day, or the decision to forgive someone. This can bring about a significant transformation in our lives. As Gandhi once said, in a gentle way, you can shake the world. Similarly, small acts of love, kindness, and understanding, like the tiny adjustment in how deep to plant an onion seedling, can create a ripple effect that leads to a more vibrant, happy, and fulfilling life. I hope you found this helpful in some way. If so, give me a thumbs up and leave a comment below. I read all your comments, and besides, we can all benefit from each other. Meanwhile, keep your hands in the dirt and your eyes on the stars. Cheers.